We're rolling. Okay, so hopefully everybody got some pizza. There's plenty out there yet, so feel free to go get some more if you're feeling a little hungry yet. So, but we're going to go ahead and get started again. So next up is Matt Scheurer. He's going to do continuous skills improvement for everyone. So Matt's a chair for the Cincinnati Networking Professional Association Security Special Interest Group. Man, that's a mouthful. Yeah. The CINPA Security SIG, and works as a system security engineer in the financial services industry. He's also a Bug Crowd ambassador, holds the CompTIA Security Plus, and multiple Microsoft certs, MCP, MCPS, MCTS, MCSA, and the MCITP. Woo. So, presented on numerous information security topics, featured speaker at many local area technology groups and large information security conferences throughout Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, the tri-state area. So he's done a lot of road mileage. We've been very appreciative of Matt coming up here for us on occasion. He's done multiple meetings for us as well. He's running all that down in Cincinnati. I don't know how you get it all on your schedule. So, let's see what else. He's an active member in a number of professional organizations, including the ACM, Association for Computing Machinery, Cincinnati Networking Professional Association, CINPA, Financial Services, Information Sharing and Analysis Center, FSI, SAC, I guess that's how you say that, ISAC, Information System Security Association, ISSA, and InfraGuard. So let's give a warm welcome for Matt. And here we go. Lights down. Yeah, that'd be good. Let me see here. I'm going to put everybody to sleep.
Food coma.
It's true. I don't come off the floor yet, right? The magnet's ready.
Everybody hear me okay? Picking up good, Adrian?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everybody. My talk today is continuous skills improvement for everyone. I use Tetris blocks. If you can spell out words in Tetris, you've got some pretty good skills. The stone wall improvement word is improving on that because those blocks don't disintegrate when they're all lined up. So this continuous skills for everybody. My name is Matt Scheurer. You can follow me on Twitter at C3RKAH. If you're not already, please do so. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, which is linkedin.com/n/Matt Scheurer. And then also this slide deck and all of my slide decks are out on slideshare.net/circa. So if you're going to take a picture of anything, just take a picture of this slide or pick it up off of irongeek.com, the video feed later on, and you can get the slide deck. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. About me, you kind of heard the introduction already. I'm a senior system security engineer at First Financial Bank in Cincinnati. I also run the CINPA Security SIG, so I serve as the chair there. Hit our booth up out in the middle. There's all sorts of propaganda that you can pick up out there for all of our Cincinnati InfoSec meetup groups. Maybe not all of them, but a good representation of them anyway. And I'm also an ambassador and security researcher for Bug Crowd. What's really cool about this talk is because of the people that are in this room, I'm going to call on some of them throughout this talk, which will be a little bit different than any other place I might give this one. So really glad the crowd's here that is here. So some objectives is I want to provide attendees with ideas and options for continuing to expand their information security skills. Not all of these ideas are going to appeal to everyone, and that's perfectly fine. My advice is pick and choose the ones specifically that mean something to you, the ones that you think, yeah, this is something I would like to do, maybe a good idea for me. I think I can latch onto that and run with it. So the examples provided, these are not exhaustive lists. There's way more resources than I could ever possibly cover cover. But if you feel really compelled that there's that one big thing that I'm really just missing, and I would say let me know, but really this talk is for everyone, as the title would indicate. So share it with everybody in the room if you think of something that I'm just outright missing. So why should I do any of this stuff is the question you might be asking. So I'm going to lay out my case here of developing and improving your skills helps whether you're looking for your first ever InfoSec opportunity. And I get asked an awful lot, how do I break into this industry? I've got a degree, I've got certifications, it's getting me nowhere. I can't even get interviews. So also, if you're looking to take that next career step, maybe you think, okay, I'm in a situation now where I'm ready to move on, regardless of what the reason might be. Hopefully I'm giving you some ideas for that. And if nothing else, making impacts now and starting now is going to help safeguard your own job security. So if your situation ever changes unexpectedly, you're ready to hit the ground running onto the next thing. And hopefully you've already got those connections and contacts where you can basically impress people enough where you don't have to worry about these kind of things again. Or maybe you just want to simply help mentor other people, which is certainly a noble cause, and it's a large part of why I do the things I do, running the groups I run, coming to conferences like this and speaking. And maybe you're just looking to give back to the information security community or get involved a little bit more. And we're going to talk about this, but there's tons of opportunity to do so within this space. So some inspirations for this talk, creative workarounds to learning with very limited time and zero training budget. So if you're Micah Brown in the room, you can go to your employer and say, hey, I want to take this really expensive professional training halfway across the country. They go, yeah, sure, go ahead. That sounds nice. Bring back what you learn. If you're in the boat I'm in, which is probably the majority of us, you get told, yeah, we're sorry, we don't have any training budget for that, or yeah, we requested it and it got denied. So hopefully I'm giving you some ideas to work around those things. But free educational sites, other conference speakers and talks, articles, blogs, podcasts, and videos, Bug Crowd University, which we're going to touch on later, and then personal experience. I've learned an awful lot, I think, running a local information security meetup group. And also, in my time of mentoring others, I've helped a lot of people get job interviews. In some cases, that's led to jobs. Others, it didn't, but at least it gave them an opportunity to do so. And I do get asked for a lot of advice on this. So what I wanted to do is put together a talk that covers really the basis of everything I try to convey, but I just don't usually have time in a brief one-on-one exchange with people. So one of the things I want to start with is that traditional qualification triangle that most people look at in an employment situation. And in this triangle, we have education, experience, and certifications. And those are sort of the traditional model of what people try to do. In my experience, having experience is typically the most valued by employers. That's the thing they appreciate the most, more so than the degree or the certification, because if you have the experience you can speak to, if you have other people that can validate what you know on a personal level, it tends to have a big impact. And some just general notes of the triangle itself, it doesn't account for things like luck, or particularly around the Dayton area, having a security clearance, which I don't have. If anybody has secrets to that, let me know, because I don't have any, short of just trying to get into a bunch of defense contractors hoping one will sponsor you into a position. But some other things I want to talk about that may not make a lot of sense in an information security talk, but emotional intelligence quotient, or EIQ for short, and I'm going to touch on this near the end of the talk. Let's go to the next slide here. So InfoSec street cred, what I found is getting that first opportunity in InfoSec is really hard. It's just hard to get somebody to give you an opportunity if you don't have any experience whatsoever. Some people will get lucky, and I talked about luck. Some people might get a good co-op or an internship, and maybe that leads to a position. I've sat in conferences for years, and a lot of speakers are saying, oh, well, you know, it's just happenstance that I happen to be somewhere, and somebody said, well, you're going to be our security guy guy because of this, or we need somebody to fill it. So, they've almost gotten into it by accident. And then there are people that are in a boat like mine where it took a lot of years to finally get somebody to give me that first opportunity. I'm hoping to help deliver a talk that'll shortcut that for a lot of people looking to break in or maybe move up the ladder a little bit. So equipped with only a degree and certifications alone, the world probably isn't going to be the path to your door. I hate to give that bad news in spite of having a large number of job openings that are unfulfilled year over year. That's a growing number and big skills gaps. It's still hard to get somebody to give you that opportunity, but I do have some ideas on how you can stand apart from the crowd, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. So there's some things you can do to really help yourself, and again, whether you're first time, sort of mid-level trying to move up, or you're simply just wanting to raise your own profile so you have better opportunities later on down the road, even if your concerns aren't immediate ones. So you can do things like writing, recording, posting new tech videos. Volunteering, doing bug bounties, and teaching others are great ways to sort of stand apart from the crowd. Usually in job interview situations, I've been the one being interviewed most often, but there have been a few times where I sat on the other side of the table and I'm talking to candidates and trying to understand what they actually know. And the biggest thing it's hard to determine sometimes is who's really passionate. Is this person just looking for a 9-to-5 job? Are they a 9-to-5er? Or do they really have a passion for this stuff and they're just looking for somebody to give them a chance? And these are the kinds of things, if I find out they're doing, it tells me an awful lot about their person and their motivations for applying for a position. So some writing examples: you can write tech articles, tech blogs, or white papers are great ways to get some material. Even if you don't have high traffic, if you can speak to those things, it says an awful lot. And event write-ups, if you come to an event like this, maybe just share out your key takeaways. You got 5 speakers today, maybe your top takeaway from each speaker or something you've learned. It'd be a great write-up just to throw out there. It shows you not only were you here, but you were also paying attention and looking to expand your knowledge. So video lesson examples, you can record and post videos. I have a question beside YouTube channel, and the reason for that is because recently YouTube has decided that they were going to start removing content and banning content if it were deemed instructional hacking videos. I think they've gotten a big backlash, and they've maybe backed off of this a little bit. What I can tell you from my own personal experience is some of you that were here earlier in the year, you saw my phishing forensics is just suspicious or is it malicious talk. I want to say that was the OISF February meeting. Give me a pass if I don't have that date right, but my favorite recorded version of that talk was at B-Sides Cleveland, and after this I went out and looked because phishing was one of the things that YouTube were basically removing, and sure enough that video was gone. I checked just the other day, they put it back. So, but now it's listed as restricted content, and it was not listed as restricted content before. I've had other talks that were, but I was sort of surprised that that one, they put it back, but they put a restricted content on it. So some other alternatives, and Adrian actually tweeted about this the other day after I had my slide, so it told me I was on the right path. Some people have recommended maybe BitChute or other YouTube alternatives. I think YouTube's probably the go-to if they're not maybe a little overzealous in their content removal practices, but maybe keep the others in the back of your mind. Just something to think about. But anyway, just having a channel somewhere on some video service site that you record stuff, and maybe not everybody's comfortable talking and recording. I've seen a lot of things where people use a screen reader to basically speak out the content they want. I've even seen people just use subtitles and they're not talking at all, but they've got an instructional video. So if you're not wanting to record your own voice, those are some alternatives for doing stuff like that. volunteering examples, this is a big one for me. So volunteering at technology conferences and information security hacker conferences is a great way to expand your professional network to sort of, and it also demonstrates your ability to work as a team, actually sort of get your hands dirty with getting involved in a conference and doing those sort of things. Most people, if they have no passion for it, aren't going to take those steps. So it's one of those things that absolutely tells people that, you know, you're authentic when you're applying for a position like that. Local tech and InfoSec meetup groups. So John mentioned it. OISF, I think they right now have 3 open board positions. If you're local and you can put forth a little bit of time, I know they're looking for help, and really running my own group. Most meetup groups want help, even if it's not publicized, so I don't really come out and ask for help, but in my dreams, somebody would come up to me and say, Matt, you put forth a lot of time and effort in this stuff. It looks like a lot of work, but I think I would like to help take some of that burden from you. Can I, you know, I would love to have somebody volunteer to be like an understudy that I could mentor and groom. I'm not going to be able to run the group that I run forever. At some point, I'm going to have to turn over the keys to somebody, and it would be really awesome if they were ready to take the reins right then and there. So, you know, even if somebody's not actively asking for help, ask them, hey, could you use, you know, maybe a person under you, a backup, something like that, or just maybe there are outright board positions open where you have an immediate impact. If you can do something like that, again, it shows passion, and it also shows giving back to the community and really helping out. One of the other things I want to talk about is sort of teaching in general. If you really want to learn a subject well, if you set yourself up to where you have to teach it to other people, you're really going to put in time to learn it, to make sure you know your stuff so you can share that material with other people. It's a fantastic way to sort of increase your own knowledge in a subject when you have to stand up in front of a crowd and speak to it. Conferences like this, meetup groups, webinars, workshops, brown bag lunches, school labs, library rooms, hallways, everywhere else, anywhere you can teach. There's, you know, a lot of need. As much of a struggle as security is to get right, a lot of times, you know, clearly we need more people entering into that and doing those things. There's some online places you can learn, but not only learn, they also actively are looking for instructors. So there's opportunities there at places like Cybrary, LinkedIn Learning, Pluralsight, and Udemy. So you can Google search any of these and find their website. Also, if you do download the slide deck, there are embedded hyperlinks that will take you to the sites. So get the slide decks later on. But yeah, here's more teaching opportunities that are out there. And I've seen all of these sites actively recruiting for additional instructors. Just a great way to get involved. So bug bounty programs, this is a good one. You can actually get paid to hack stuff, legally and ethically. I mean, what could be better, right? And not only that, but think about this. You're gaining professional experience when you do so. Now, the barrier to entry at places like BugCrowd and other bug bounty hunting companies is that the barrier to entry is pretty low. Yeah, there's some trust stuff. You have to send them, you know, your driver's license and other personal information and stuff like that, because they have to do a certain level of validation of who you are to make sure it's good. But in general, this is a lot easier to get your foot in the door and something like this than it is to just land a first opportunity. So if you're struggling to find somebody give you an opportunity in InfoSec, consider doing bug bounty stuff. It's great because you can really kind of do it on your own pace, at your own time. You've got ample time to learn stuff before you start going into it. It's really a great way to get professional experience even if nobody else will give you a chance. And then also you can, along those lines, consider entering a capture the flag competition. Just add personal skills and increase proficiency to expand your skill sets. Tying it all together, and again, I said before, not everything's going to appeal to everyone. Pick and choose what you like, what you think would sort of speaks to you the most, but publicly journal the stuff you're learning, whether you're taking a class, participating in a CTF, attending a workshop, earning a certification, completing an online challenge or course, conducting security research, whatever have you, but also publish a write-up or post a video recap. Better yet, consider doing both to really sort of cast a wide net. Again, it's all about showing passion, and also it sort of forces you to, when you're writing notes, when you're taking things down, or explaining to other people, that just sort of reinforces those skills within you. It's really a great thing. And then if you do those things, come back to an OISF, come to a SIMPA Security SIG or any other local InfoSec meetup group and share what you've learned, because people would love to just see a recap and just sort of a replay of, hey, I did this thing, I thought it was really cool, here were my favorite parts, let me show you what I learned. Those are the kind of things that most meetup groups are going and begging for speakers in conferences. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. And then put these activities on your resume. That's an important part. If you're applying for a position, if you don't speak to it, I may not know you have a YouTube channel. I may not know you've written up some cool malware analysis work that you've done, or whatever have you. If you can demonstrate that, and I see, like, hey, this is a person I want to talk to, because, again, I know they're authentic, I know they've got a passion for it, they're going above and beyond. This wasn't even their job, they just did it on their own time. It says volumes about who you are and what your motivations are. So when it comes to learning, there's plenty of ways to learn new things, and probably more places now than ever before. Online learning has really exploded. There's so many great resources out there. For me personally though, I still learn best through hands-on activities and time in the seat. And it's just getting that personal experience. It's one thing if I'm reading something in a book, or I'm watching a YouTube video, or I come to a conference and I see these things and it's cool. It sort of works a lot better for me if I actually get my hands dirty and do these things myself, because then I remember it better. I have that experience firsthand as opposed to just being an observer. So there might be a lot of other people in this room that learn best the same way. I know that's, for me personally, how I learn. And then what we're going to do is just look at some free and low-cost examples for doing that, because again, we're not all Micah Brown back there who can get their employer to pay for this stuff. So I want to first talk about the SEED labs. These are put together by Syracuse University, started by Dr. Du. And so the SEED project's objective is to develop hands-on laboratory exercises called SEED labs for computer and information security education and help instructors adapt these labs in their curricula. At present, there are over 30 labs available. What I like about the SEED labs is these are very geared towards offensive security learning. But guess what? You don't have to be an instructor. You can be your own instructor and get these labs absolutely for free, and then basically work through them. And we're going to just go through what these labs are. Normally I hate reading slides verbatim, but I think there's so much good stuff in here that I do actually want to highlight what they cover. So for software security labs, they have a buffer overflow vuln lab, basically a libc attack lab, environment variable and SUID lab, which is great for privilege escalation, particularly on Unix-like operating systems. Race condition vulnerability labs. How many people really liked Daryl's talk for U-boot to root? Guess what? When he rooted that device, when he got to a shell account, yeah, that was a race condition. So this will teach you a little bit more about that and getting hands-on with it. Dirty Cow Attack Lab, which is the copy on write features within the Linux kernel that basically becomes another privilege escalation attack. And I think also maybe even some Android OSs historically were prone to that as well, if I'm not mistaken. I've also seen Daryl there demo format string vulnerabilities and give really good talks on that, and it's stuff's still relevant today. It still works in a lot of cases, even though it shouldn't with secure coding practices. We all know that that doesn't always happen, right? So Shell Shock Vulnerability Lab, pretty very pertinent, newsworthy stuff from back in the day. And then, so there's network security labs, and one on sniffing and spoofing, TCP IP attacks, Heartbleed attack lab, local DNS attack lab, remote DNS attack lab, firewall exploration, and firewall evasion, and then some VPN stuff. And then more attack labs, doing some AppSec stuff with web security labs. There's cross-site scripting attacks, cross-site request forgery attacks, SQL injection attack labs, and then system security labs such as Spectre and Meltdown, which certainly are newsworthy. And the amazing thing about these attacks are, even very recently, I remember Microsoft has put out quite a number of updates for these things. I think even some within the last 6 months, even though these side channel attacks are not new vulnerabilities, it's very hard to remediate them, or at least put those wrappers around them at the OS level. So, you might think, well, that's old news, it's yesterday's news. There may still be some problems where people can still exploit these things in future patches to be released, who knows when, but at least you get a good basis for that by doing these labs. And then still some more, so there's some cryptography stuff such as MD5 collisions, where you can take 2 different files and make them have the same MD5 checksum, so they look the same. So for things that are doing integrity checking based on the MD5 hash value, there's ways to defeat that, and this walks you through it. RSA, encryption and signature stuff, secret key encryption lab, pseudo random number generation, PKI, and then some mobile security lab stuff, such as Android repackaging attack lab, where you take applications for the Android OS, you modify them in malicious fashions, and then you repackage them back up and make them look like the original. And then Android device rooting lab. So there's some really great stuff for some free labs. It's really cool in my opinion. So I do want to talk about some caveats though. So there's a book, because the online documentation for these labs is pretty sparse, and they don't really cover a whole lot. So you'll want to order Dr. Dew's Accompanying Computer and Internet Security, a Hands-On Approach, 2nd edition. I don't have the 2nd edition book yet. I have the 1st edition book here with me. If somebody would like to just flip through it, I do want this book back when I leave today, but you're more than welcome to peruse it, take a look at it, and see what's in here, and determine if this is something that you think would be valuable to your time. It's about $70 on Amazon, just a little bit under 70 bucks actually. And if you're ordering it there, be sure to go to Smile Amazon and choose the Ohio Information Security Forum, so the group gets a little kickback for that, right? Getting some applause for that, excellent. But yeah, if you want to get the most out of these labs, highly, highly, highly recommend the book. Otherwise, it'll be hard to sort of work through some of these things on your own. And $70, it may not be anything to sneeze at, but it's a whole lot cheaper than a lot of training courses I've seen personally.
College classes.
Yeah, college classes, absolutely. I look at some of these classes and I think, yeah, that's really cool. Work won't pay for it. And honestly, if I had that kind of money to throw around, I'd just go get a nicer car instead. So yeah, pretty inexpensive when you consider some of the alternatives out there. I'm also going to talk about the ANISA training labs, and anybody who was here for OISF, their last monthly meeting, will be kind of familiar with this a little bit. So these were created by the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, ANISA, the ANISA CCERT training material containing handbooks for teachers, tool sets for students, and virtual images to support hands-on training sessions. That's a great thing about this. What I like about them is they give you absolutely everything you need for absolutely free. These are Lubuntu-based virtual machine images. Unlike the SEED labs, these are more around incident response and for digital forensics focused. But I really love the way these are put together. I've done a bit.ly version of the website, so again, if you get the slide deck, you can get out there easily enough. We're going to talk about these because again, it's just so much great stuff that they put in here. So building artifact handling and analysis environment, process and storing artifacts, artifact analysis fundamentals, advanced artifact handling, introduction to advanced artifact analysis, dynamic analysis of artifacts, static analysis of artifacts, forensic analysis, local incident response, forensic analysis, network incident response, forensic analysis, web server analysis, developing countermeasures, and common framework for artifact analysis activities. And then also using indicators to enhance defense capabilities, identification and handling of electronic evidence, digital forensics, which again, if you were here for OISF last month, you've already done 2/3 of that lab. I highly encourage you to get the VM image and the manual and go through the last piece where you basically use the material that you have and sort of show that this is a Zeus variant. We didn't have time and really the resources to do that last part in the OISF, so on your own, why not complete that training? It's some really cool stuff and some good exercises. And these are based on Ubuntu, so they're very lightweight VMs. You don't need much of a system at all to run these things. I really like the way they put these together. So after that, we've got mobile threat incident handling, mobile threats incident handling part 2, proactive incident detection, automation and incident handling, introduction to network forensics, honeypots, vulnerability handling, and finally presenting, correlating, and filtering various feeds. So that's a lot of great stuff for absolutely free. All you got to do is go out there and download it, put in a little bit of time. They give you the manuals, everything you need. I really like these labs a lot. So I can't say enough about the SEED labs and the ANISA labs. Some caveats here. These labs are built with a noticeable international focus as created by the EU. So the European Union makes these things. So what you'll find is the GMT times in the labs are very different from USA time zones. The documentation is written in international English rather than US English. So when you're looking at these things, some of the spellings are a little funny and things like that. And even when you read the CSIRT, that's something you don't see a lot in the United States. That is the Computer Security Incident Response Team. We tend to call them SOCs here, Security Operations Centers, and we talk about SOC teams and SOC analysts. So that's one of those international nomenclature things. It's a little bit different. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's nothing you can't work through. And then they do a lot of legal references, but again, that's based on European law. Now, if you work for an international company, those might be very relevant to what you need to know. If you're primarily US based, you have to take those things with a grain of salt. There might be overlap between European law and the law in the United States, but they could also be very different. Just something to bear in mind when you're reading their documentation, that it may not be fully applicable here. I want to talk just a little bit about Bug Crowd University. So if you're thinking, hey, that bug bounty hunting stuff, I really hadn't considered it before, but maybe that is my road in. Maybe that's something I can personally do to get that opportunity to get some professional experience. So Bug Crowd University is a free and open source project for security education and training for the white hat hacker community. Learn the basics of hacking and bug bounty hunting. They have videos, tutorials, labs, best practices, and more. You can get to their website, which takes you to their Git repository, where they have a whole lot of resources. It's continuing to grow. So even if you're not sure where to start today, here's your starting point. You can start here and then start building up those skills to where you think you're ready to tackle your first bug bounty assignment and volunteer for it. Oops. So some more free hands-on learning. Hack the Box is a relatively newer site that I'm aware of, at least, and they've got some really cool challenges out there. Highly recommend you check into it.
You gotta hack it to get in.
Yeah, you do have to hack it to get in, but if you're crafty with your internet searching, you can get some really good tips. Hint, hint. Hack yourself first or how to go on the cyber offense. So most people know Troy Hunt for HaveIBeenPwned.com, which is a fantastic site. But what doesn't get maybe as much publicity as it maybe deserves is his Hack Yourself First Pluralsight course. It's a great place to learn web application security. He's got a sample site already out there online. You can just pick up from anywhere with an internet connection and start doing that course. Really good one, highly recommend it. Offensive Security has Metasploit Unleashed as a free course. Again, it's a great course. I've gone through it. It's been a while, but it's really good stuff. And so some people, I mentioned capture the flags and CTFs, and some people might be a little averse to, like, I'm not sure I want to go compete head-to-head with other people live, and I don't want to, show at the bottom of the scoreboard and look like an idiot and in front of a lot of other people. The cool thing was, with a lot of the capture the flag events will upload their VM after the conference to a site like VulnHub, where you can basically download that intentionally vulnerable virtual machine image, and they got a lot of other stuff out there too. And you can do it on self-paced, no eyes over your shoulders, no pressure. You just kind of do it on your own pace, and really it's just to enhance your own learning process and get better at it. And when you get stumped, you can search online to find if other people have done walkthrough write-ups, things like that, to kind of help you through when you get stuck. It's just a great resource where there's a lot of virtual machine images you can spin up in your own home lab and practice and get better. There's also some AppSec hands-on learning, and I'm going to start with WebGoat, which is kind of the granddaddy of them all. It's been around forever, just to sort of give you exercises for learning how to compromise vulnerable websites, web applications, that sort of thing. The new hotness from OWASP is Juice Shop, which is the sort of latest and greatest thing they put out. What's really neat about this is they have it set up where there's a capture the flag mode. I tried looking through the instructions. It looked a little more involved than I had time to put into it. But if anybody is ever considering hosting a capture the flag, or has some spare time to look into doing it and basically writing out how you do it from scratch to completion, that would be a worthy project for sure. And then I want to talk about Matilla Day. So the cool thing about today is that we actually have the father of Matilla Day in the room. Anybody want to take a guess who that is? Daryl. And it's not Daryl. But you're close. Adrian Crenshaw, right over there. In fact, I remember sitting in a car with Adrian. This was Hamvention weekend years and years ago, and I remember he was sitting in the seat behind me saying, guys, I've been thinking about doing this thing where to teach people about the OWASP top 10 and how these vulnerabilities are exploited and so forth. And I mentioned, like, have you looked at WebGoat? Oh yeah, I've looked at it, but I kind of had something else in mind. And I don't remember if it was the months later when this conference rolled around, or maybe the following year, but next thing I know, he's presenting it, and I'm like, oh wow, I remember when he was talking about this stuff in the car. He started it, he completed it, he finished it, did a great job. Since then, Adrian's turned it over, and it's sort of been adopted by OWASP. So it's a great training tool. Highly recommend it. And
German Jordan is supposed to do this main code incarnation. We had him speak here a year or two ago, I think.
All right, very good. And but yeah, I mean, if it weren't for Adrian, it may not exist. So very appreciative of him, and it's great he's here to give some credit on that for starting it. Oops, keep flipping. So here we're going to take a little bit different approach in the rest of the talk. So I want to talk a little bit about goal setting. And it's just simply a question: if you could do anything you would like in the next 5 years, what would it be? And note, this is not the same crappy interview question that people ask, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, well, I don't know. I don't know what opportunities are here. I don't know what opportunities for advancement there are. I don't know the culture. I don't even know what I'm going to have for lunch Monday afternoon. How would I know where I'm going to be 5 years from now? No, what this question is if I could wave a magic wand and do whatever I wanted to do, what would that be? And really, once you figure that out, take yourself out of the picture, because then you tend to give yourself less excuses than if you're thinking about it from your own perspective. Imagine somebody else who would acquire that position. What would be the steps that they would take to get to where they are, and where you'd like to be dream-wise, future 5-year self, right? Jot these things down. It becomes your action plan. Do those steps. And if you take that approach, I think you might find that it's more beneficial than if you sort of give yourself permission to make excuses for why you can't achieve something 5 years from now. And just to sort of reinforce this stuff a little bit, Jim Cathcart quotes, "Think like the person you intend to become." That's very important. It's a very interesting change in mindset to really sort of drive where you might want to be. And this is one of my personal favorites. If you will spend 1 extra hour each day studying your chosen field, you'll be a national expert in that field in 5 years or less. So I think most of us can agree that Daryl Highland is an expert in hardware hacking. Certainly he's demonstrated that in his first talk today. Daryl, quick question for you. How many years have you been doing hardware hacking?
About 3.
About 3 years? You put a ton of hours into it, right?
Well, it is my job, sort of, kind of.
Yeah. So
it's kind of one of those things is that, that makes perfect good sense. My job consists of a number of different things in the IoT field. The actual hardware hacking, taking the devices apart, it wasn't necessarily this is what your job is. The goal is I want to learn this. So literally, and I don't do it every day, but when I have, I'm kind of weird. Actually, that during the week I try to do my job and be involved in this stuff, but what I do is every Friday night and Saturday night, when the wife goes to bed, I go to my lab. I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I stay up till like 2 in the morning. So from 11 o'clock to 2 in the morning, I focus on thinking about things that I don't know, and how can I go about figuring them out in reference to this and other things too. And by prosing that extra time like that, it leads to this. It leads to that level of knowledge.
Yeah, and so let me ask you a follow-up question. How much further along are you now, 3 years later, than when you started, by your own estimation?
Well, it's kind of crazy. 3 years ago, when I was offered the position as the research lead for IoT technology, I didn't even know what freaking IoT stood for, let alone how to get memory out of a chip, how UART was, or any of this stuff, or anything. I hadn't touched electronics in any form or fashion in over 25, 30 years since I was clear back in the Navy, and technology has changed. So yeah, it's 3 years, probably applying a little more than an extra hour a day, but you learn quick.
Yeah.
You make it a passion.
Absolutely. And so there you have it. Daryl didn't just intrinsically know this stuff and started day one going, hey, look, I can U-boot to root, and that's no problem. It was a process, right? And he put in the time, the energy, and the effort. And so that's sort of what it takes is a commitment, whatever schedule you work out for yourself to do that, putting in the time, that's how you grow and learn and get better. And again, I think nobody would argue Daryl's a national expert in hardware hacking just by virtue of learning that for other purposes. Yes?
And one of the other focuses is at Rapid7, obviously we have teams that their goal is to do assessments of the technology. And I do a little bit of that, that's not my focus. So often the knowledge that I gather, that I seek by doing this is meant to be given to somebody else. So I put this stuff together purely for educational training type thing, either for coworkers, friends, conferences, and stuff like that. So it's the knowledge is actually growing through a desire to share the knowledge.
Yep, and that really feeds back into this whole talk and what I've been talking about this whole time. And there's a perfect example, real life example, everybody should be able to relate to because we saw it play out firsthand in the first talk this morning. So good stuff. Thank you, Daryl. I do want to talk about emotional intelligence, and I'm going to kind of breeze through this a little bit because I'm starting to run on time a little bit. But emotional intelligence, EI, emotional leadership, EL, emotional quotient, EQ, and emotional intelligence quotient, EIQ. And there might be minor differences between these things, but generally speaking, most people kind of lump these all together and use them interchangeably. But it's basically the capacity of individuals to recognize their own emotions, those of others, discern between different feelings and label them appropriately, use emotional information to guide thinking, and behavior, and manage and or adjust emotions to adapt to environments or achieve one's goals. And there's a Wikipedia article if you want to read through that later. But building up soft skills, this is the thing that we often overlook in this industry in a lot of conferences. So it may sound touchy-feely for some at first, but honestly I attribute EIQ for reaching my professional goals. Many studies that have been done concluded that people with the highest EIQ typically achieve more success and earn higher compensation than even the smartest people. And there are a lot of great articles through the following Google search of improving emotional intelligence. What I recommend is find the one that speaks to you, the one that's most beneficial, bookmark some of those, go back and revisit them periodically just to keep that stuff fresh in your mind, because for a lot of people, I know for myself, it doesn't come naturally, so it's something I work on personally, and it's really paid a lot of dividends, because before I started doing this, I was kind of stuck in almost a dead-end kind of career path, and that really changed my life. And I'll be honest, when I went into it, when I saw like, oh, I got signed up for this looks really lame, I didn't have a good attitude when I headed into it. Thankfully, I happen to at least have enough of an open mind and be willing to listen, and I got far more out of it than I ever thought I would, and thank goodness for that. So some mom quotes before EIQ was a thing. So mom would tell me growing up, it's not always what you know, but sometimes who you know, and that's a very true statement. If you have good connections and contacts that can help you out, there's nothing wrong with riding somebody's coattails if you're the real deal, but somebody can vouch for you and say, yeah, I know this person, they are who they say they are, I recommend them. Always treat others as you would like to be treated, and if you don't have anything nice to say, then you shouldn't say anything at all. And nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. That last one is true, and boy, a lot of people miss that. I read stuff on Twitter, it's absolutely ridiculous. I was recently reading somebody that gives talks, and they get so much criticism over stuff and nitpicking from people that probably never give talks about it themselves or really contribute much, and they were getting discouraged by it, and that's a shame, because everybody loses when somebody decides that, you know, I've had enough, I'm going to drop out and just not do this stuff anymore. I'm not perfect, I'm not infallible. Look, I fall short a lot of times, particularly in these last 3 bullet points, but I tell you what, if we all made a concerted effort to do these a little bit more, this community would be a lot better off for it. We could all be a lot more civil to one another, and instead of making accusations and assertions, take time to ask the questions, what did you really mean by that? Or could you clarify this for me before just going on the attack, and then it just goes back and forth. And so my own personal recommendation is leave the trolling and flame wars to Orville. And for those of you who've been to the Troll Pub, Dayton will readily recognize this statue. You'll also recognize this guy right here. And oh yeah, by the way, this guy and this guy as well. I didn't tell them I was putting this picture in the slide deck. This was taken after the OISC conference in the Sinclair Community College Ponance Learning Center a few months ago. So if I end up knifed in the parking lot, laying dead in a pool of blood, please tell the police that here's your prime suspects for that. I'd greatly appreciate it. But very cool, because a number of people from this picture are here, not just us, but also Jan's here. I saw that, which is great. I think all but 2 of us in this photo gave talks at OISC, and here you have 3/5 of your OISF speakers today. So how cool is that? But these guys are good friends of mine. I really like them, and I'm grateful to do this conference with them as well. So just some quick conclusions, and I'll wrap it up. So experiment and find what works best for you. Market yourself well. You're in charge of your own personal brand. Nobody's going to do it for you, usually, so you're probably going to have to do it for yourself. Work hard and share these lessons with others. I'm doing it. All the speakers today are doing it. Daryl's done it for a long time. Adrian's done it for a long time. there's not too many people doing this, believe me. There's room for more. So work hard, share these lessons with others. Never stop learning or challenging yourself. That's the important thing. Don't be that 9-to-5er that I was sort of poo-pooing earlier. Actually step up and figure out what more you can contribute, even if it's just a little bit. It's very welcome. And then also, please don't forget those soft skills like emotional intelligence quotient. Actually work on those things. They will really help your career regardless of where you are at. With that, out of my content, got maybe just a minute for questions. Anybody have any real quick questions? Yes.
I have more of a statement, and I know you're in the private sector. Most of the people in this room probably are. But there are additional resources for those of us who work in the government on active duty, civilian, contractor. If people have questions about that, I'll be happy to answer. I don't want to waste everybody's time, but there are some other places you can go for not just recorded lectures, but also hands-on labs.
Very good. And, certainly groups like OISF, the SIMPA Security SIG, and a lot of other groups in Cincinnati willing to help fill in that as well. Appreciate that. If anybody works in government, ask the gentleman in the sand shirt. I'm sure he can point you to some great resources. All right, anything? Yes, one more.
Yeah, I think the emotional intelligence thing is very crucial. I work at Rapid 7 and I'm a technical writer, and I interact with customers, consultants, and mostly consultants and project managers. And a lot of times when you're working or delivering to a customer, the biggest problem we have is in communication. So it's the breakdown of, I saw a problem, but I didn't want to say anything. I felt uncomfortable. Or this person slighted me at one point at work, so I'm going to just kind of let this thing blow up. And I think it's interesting to hear someone else say that you're actively trying to change emotional intelligence, because it's almost like until you're responsible for something bigger than yourself that you don't engage that. Because a lot of people, I just walk around work and I'm like, why are you complaining? It's really not that bad. We can just talk about it and resolve it. So what was your point where you're like, I'm going to actively engage and try to fix this?
Well, it's kind of funny that you ask. So just to set the table as quickly as I can and be thorough enough about it, I was, like I said, kind of found myself in a dead-end position. I really was kind of, I had a certain level of discontentment with where I was at. I wasn't really happy there. And it sort of snowballed into a point where I became kind of really unhappy at the end, almost bitterly so. And it's funny because I just got signed up for this stuff, but I remember a time before where I took an IQ test and it was matched up against with other people who thought they were smart. No, I wasn't in the top 2 or 3% or anything like that, but I was like 7%, top 7%. And I'm looking at where I'm at and I'm thinking, well, how come I'm not in the top 7% of success? I'm nowhere near it. I'm so far removed from that. And for years I tried to be the smartest person in the room. And then you run into people like Daryl and Dave Kennedy and H.D. Moore, and you just think, oh, this is hopeless. I mean, they're just some really wicked smart people out there. And what I realized, though, even as smart as I was, it wasn't getting me anywhere. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I thought, well, maybe it's the lack of a degree, and maybe I need better certifications, and that's how I need to get there. I don't have that much more now than I did then, but I'm making well over twice what I did back then in terms of income, and I wasn't doing anywhere near what I wanted to do. It was really when I took those lessons to heart, and I started realizing I was such a privacy zealot that I didn't put myself out there at all, and I just really wanted to keep them to myself, be as anonymous as possible, as off the grid as possible. When I realized I wanted to leave, I didn't have any ways out because I didn't know anybody outside of there. So I was able to get out on my own merits and blaze blaze my own trail, but man, it was rough country to do so. It would have been so much easier if I would have taken a paved path. And as I've started to do these things, that's gotten a whole lot easier. So for me, that was my own personal journey. With that, I'm going to conclude, but if anybody has questions, I'm going to be here all day. Also, anybody who wants to go to the Troll Pub, a number of us speakers are going to go there after the conference. Feel free to stop by and have a drink and some food with us.